I'm going to try to do this again. We're going to go live. I have a design I have to work on, and I started working on it and then realized I needed to do this as a broadcast instead of trying to record it, because recording just takes too long. Just splicing it all together and anyway, trying to upload and download. So we're going to try to give this a go. And a little bit of background here. I want to make sure my chat window here is open. There we go. So I was asked to make some presenter gifts for this Foresters Forum that's coming up in northern Idaho here very quickly. And so I met with the client today, and I showed them all the different wood types, and they actually ultimately chose to go with the proof grade wood, hardwoods of walnut, maple, and cherry. And so the idea is going to be to do them somewhat similar to some Idaho presenter gifts that I had made, Idaho cutout presenter gifts that I had made several months ago in the different colors. These ones, though, are going to be a little easier where I don't have to have them personalized, so we don't have the name on it. So I showed them what I started working on this morning, and so we talked through a couple of different design elements, so I have a clearer understanding of what their vision is and what they want to do. So this is the logo for the Foresters Forum, and they want to make sure that it's incorporated somehow. So we're going to take this and we're going to break apart the design and incorporate the elements of it into our design. And so with that, keeping the mountains and the trees and the river and the people, etc. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move these two out of the way and off to the side here. So we're using Inkscape, and I have a couple of panels over here, tool panels on the side here that I always have open with my align and distribute my PNG, fill and stroke, and my layers. And I have my bounding board here for how big my engravable area is for the Glowforge. You can do that for any one of the lasers that you're looking at using. I have my information that I typed in here for what we want to try to include on it. And then I have the logo. So we're looking at something that's about 8 inches tall, and we want it to have a flat bottom or somewhat flat bottom, and this is going to be on 1/9 inch hardwood material. So I will also have some slotted acrylic bases that this will that they'll stand in. So I'm going to draw a box around this and make it a color here, or not. So get rid of the inside, hold shift down to activate a color here for my outside box, and then I'm going to set my size. I don't need it to be frozen just yet. We're going to go ahead and put our height here at 8, and our width, I don't really know yet, so we'll just go ahead and leave it at 6 for now. Not quite sure. So then on the logo, I'm going to click on the logo, and I'm going to go up to Path, and I'm going to click on Trace Bitmap. And there's a couple of different ways to get to this. You can do Shift-Alt-B. You can, I'm sure there's other things over here, but this is just how I do it. And so one of the tools in here is this edge detection tool, and you can make sure that you have your live preview turned on. And so it's already picking up the edges here. And if I change the threshold on my edge detection tool, then I can change the details that it's picking up. So if I take it all the way up to 1 versus if I take it back down to 0, it gets a lot more cloudy and chunky. So I'm going to take it back up to where we had it. I don't want it. I want it to be actually filled in and full. So I'm just looking at I'm looking at the preview here, trying to find a really good balance. And I'm just going to hit OK. And then what happened here is you saw now it has this black. So I'm going to exit out of that. And it overlaid on top of it. Here is now a trace of the logo in vector format. So if I can see all the nodes here. This is still just a picture, and this is in the vector format. And I can now do different pieces. I can chunk this up and do what I want with this design a lot easier. So now I can go up here and I can do break apart. If I do that, it took one large design and broke it out into lots of different detailed little boxes and pieces that all go to this. So I'm going to grab foresters and I'm just going to pull it up and out of the way, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to do path combine to put it all back together. Same thing with forum. I'm just going to get it up out of the way and I'm going to combine it back together, so we're keeping it those pieces for now. And then if I click in here, there's all of these different boxes that are here, and so those are different pieces of this design that it took and it created outlines for. And so now I'm going to try to figure out what each of them are. So I can pull this one away, and I can pull that one away, but see, if I pull that away, I lost part of my river. So if I click on that, I can take the river with me. And I don't need the whole, this one is actually a little more angular, so let's go back. Let's see if it will let me grab this one, this other piece, and this piece. Nope. So there's all these different little pieces here that go to this. So if I do this, there we go, and pull it over, there's all of my river pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and go up and I'm going to combine this all back together. I want it to actually keep that. So what happens if I do union? There we go. So union kept all of the little pieces together with it. And so I'd say just don't be afraid to try and back up. Control Z is definitely my friend, and I still do not have a complete handle on when you use each one of these in regard to the paths and all that stuff. But if I just keep playing, then eventually I get to it. So the next part here is I want to do these mountains, and there is pieces within these, and I don't need, these are kind of extra. They're inside here, because if we were to zoom in on this, there's two different tones of white going on in here. So there's a greenish white, and then there's an actual white, and so it's trying to give you all of your different options. So now we're just down to our single snow-capped peaks here. So the thought with the client was that we would take this design and we would incorporate it, I'm going to lock my ratio here, into, so I have this idea in my head, and I'm going to kind of meld it all together here. So I'm going to pull this mountain piece up to my box, and we can change our ratios later here if we want to, but now I'm looking for my tape measure, which always walks away. Oh, there it is. My desk is such a mess. So I'm more of I need visual. I have a hard time conceptualizing things. I'm much more of a audio, visual, tactile kind of person. So I like to make sure that I can kind of have an idea of what it is that I'm doing. So I have some scratch pieces of paper here. Because on the screen you can blow it in and out and in and out, and I know that there's like these measurement tools going across it and stuff, but still I like good old-fashioned paper. So I want an idea of what 6 inches across actually does look like here. So I'm just going to use my scratch piece of paper to give myself an idea. So I'm going to just to try to visualize here, seeing if I can show you all what I'm doing. Here, use my pencil, not a pen. So we're talking about going 8 inches high, which is kind of like that. And we're talking about going 6 inches wide, which is actually just about the width of this paper. So let's flip that back over. Let's do our 6-inch mark here first. And the other thing I should probably be factoring in is how big my proof grade material is. And this is definitely not perfect by any means. I'm just trying to give myself an idea kind of what I'm creating size-wise so I can feel it and have it in hand. So I actually think that this is going to be just a tad too big. Like if it's sitting on the shelf, I don't really like, that's really big. But maybe we can always scale it down when we're done. And then the other thing I want to double check here, because they said that they want to use proof grade, is I don't know off the top of my head what my dimensions are for proof grade. So let me go open my app. Check on my leather engrave. I didn't have my camera going. Okay. Now this is all very exciting. All stuff I should have done ahead of time. Okay, hardwood. You can all still see my keyboard. Uh-oh. Okay, well, if we actually had walnut available, which is the one that they like, we can do it in a 6x12, or we can do it in an 8x36. So I might be polycoating my own wood. I had a whole bunch of other supply. So same thing. I think I actually had seen something on the forum about walnut being out. Okay, I'll have to just go check my supply. Anyway, back to our design here. So 6 inches is going to be a little too wide. I want to make sure that I have some material available on both sides for it to cut from, just in case. So I'm going to take my box here and take it down to 5.5. And I'm going to do a 7, typical 5:7 ratio. And then that way, if they want to, they can put it in a frame. Lock that one back in. Oops. Yes, I want to take all of these and get them combined back together. I'm gonna scooch down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this box and this box, or this piece, and I want to, nope, not union. Let's see, switch over to align. So I've got a box. Those vectored, those are vectored. Okay, I'm going to break those back apart and leave those as separate. And I'm going to take this one and this one and, well, that's the opposite of what I want to do. I might have to do it manually, but and of course it doesn't help. I don't remember what I'm doing. Okay, we're just gonna do this the old-fashioned way. So I have these pieces. We're going to break it apart again. And then if I zoom in here, I have this intersection, so I'm gonna put some nodes here. If I click on my mountain, I can drop a node right there, and I can just break it apart. And so now that's separated. I'm going to go over to this side. I'm going to drop a node on that intersection, and I'm going to split the nodes. So now that is broken apart. And if I zoom back out, click on that again. Now because they're two different pieces, I've broken it off. I can go up here and I can go path break apart, and now it has taken this and making it its own piece, and it's taken the mountains and it's made its own piece. So now I can get rid of that, and then we're going to do the same thing here with our box. Oh, but I have to take my box and turn it into my path. So let me back up here and show you what I did. I'm gonna go back to normal mode real quick. Oh, it looks funny. Don't worry about it. It's because this isn't a closed shape. So right now, this box is a vector. It's going around. If you hover over it, it has the red line. But if you look at it in your node mode, it's actually not, it doesn't have our path boxes yet. It's got all of these different. So like if I double click on it, I can't add nodes to it because it's not a path. So I need to actually turn it into a path and see how my nodes changed there. Now I actually have nodes and I can drag them around and do stuff with them. And that means that I can double click on my line and I can add in a node, and I can double click on my line and add in a node. So when I do that, I know that I'm doing it on this one because this is it's got the dotted line going around it. So then I click on this one and I break it apart, or I break the path of the node, and I again break path at selected nodes. And so now we've got two different pieces again. And this isn't the one I wanted this side to pull away. There we go. We've got two different pieces. So now it's still one large piece, and we have to go up and we have to break it apart. And so now it's two distinct pieces, and I can click on this top one and hit delete. So now we have our mountains going across the top of our award design. Pretty slick. Pretty proud of myself. So then I'm going to flip over back to our normal mode. I didn't close it, so we're going to go back to outline mode. So the next step here is now we have these two separate shapes that need to get welded together. So if I flip back, I can do this. So I'm holding down shift and clicking on that one, and then if I grab these nodes here, down here it says 2 of 19 because there's two nodes right there, one for the top piece and one for the bottom piece, and then I'm going to join them together. So join selected nodes, and now it has joined it. Same thing over here. I'm going to join the selected nodes, and now it is all one piece. So if I switch over to my view, then we're back to normal. So I've got the mountains going across the top, and I've got my nice little ice caps going on. And so then our next piece here is to put in our trees and our river and our people. So we've got this chunk right here. We're going to do somewhat the same thing. I need to invert it basically and get rid of all this black back here and make it so that the people and the river and the trees are what is engraving and not the background, which we totally could do. And I was looking earlier for an invert function so I could just do an inverse, but I didn't see one. So I'm just going to do it this way, and I'm going to zoom in. We're going to draw a circle or an oval to match this shape. So every time I use Inkscape, I learn something new, and it's been a pretty cool adventure. So now, let's see, we're going to try to flip it, and so I want to do the difference. Nope. I want to do where they intersect. Okay, I know that this is the way to do it. Haha! Exclusion! Alright, ta-da! I'm pretty happy. Anyway, I'm doing a little happy dance. So now we have our inverted circle guy here that we're going to put somewhere down in here. We're going to make him just a little bit bigger. And actually, we can stretch it up. Maybe not. Let's not do that. Now I need to decide if I want to keep it with the oval going around across the bottom, like it's a window, or we could move this up like this, so that it's more like what the logo here is. And we're going to get rid of these outside lines here. So I'm gonna provide two versions here. Let's actually take these guys and this and go path union. Nope. Path combine. Nope. Maybe I'll just group it for now. I just want them to stay in place. Okay. So I'm going to highlight this whole thing, which is my 2. I'm going to Control D, which duplicates it, and I'm going to pull this off to the side. So I have, at this point, I have my raw material for where we're at. So if later I decide and I get through with this design and I go, oh, I don't really like that, then I have at least all the pieces for it. So let's actually make this go down just a bit. And let's go get rid of all this extra stuff that we got going on here. So I don't need this. I don't need this. I'm going to break it at that point. I'm going to break it at that point. I'm going to pull that away. Pull that away. Grab those two, stick them together. And I can fix the shape of it later. Same thing over here. Oh, there's already a node there, so I'm just going to put a node here. I'm going to break it apart. And I'm going to break that one apart. Click on the line, drag it away, click on the line. Nope. Click on the line. There we go. Fine. Drag it away. Put this relatively back over here. I'll grab both of them, combine it together. So now we can get rid of path, break apart, all of these extra little sections that we don't need. Oops, I lost my river. Okay, let's go figure out why. Because I didn't close that shape there. Breaking all of these apart. Join them together. flip over to normal mode. Make sure we still have our river here. Okay. So now we can choose this guy up here, break apart, and get rid of all this extra stuff. We can choose to put in a little line here, or I can leave it open like that. I kind of like it open, but it's got a line, so we'll come back to that. Okay, so the next part is then making sure that we put in this information in here and listing it out and saying that they're a presenter. So I've got this information here. I'm just going to go ahead and make a copy of it and bring it down. And I want to be able to play with the size of this, of each line. So I'm going to break it apart into their own text boxes. So I can just duplicate each one of these and then go in and remove it instead of having to type over again. I'm paying attention to my leather now I was cutting, so I want to make sure that I can smell it. And I need to pick a font. I'm actually gonna find my phone. Got some texts. And I'm going to take a picture of their font here and load it into what the font. And so I can try to match the font that they've got. Franklin Gothic. Look at that. That was easy. It's the first one that came up. Let's see. They said that this one is extra condensed. Medium, demi. I'll go with, I can fix that. Let's see, they've got that capitalized though, so. I should probably find out if they like all caps or no caps, but we can do a couple of different styles. This doesn't need to be locked in. Oh, there's my heavy. I don't know why I must have seen it before. Beautiful. Out of 30, 27. I'm gonna center these guys, and I'm going to center them within each other. So these tools are kind of cool over here. If you've got multiple lines, you can distribute evenly based on the center of your each box, or the bottom of the box, or around the box. So it just kind of depends on what you want it to look like. Pretty helpful. I'm going to group those two because I want these to be just a little bit smaller than this. I'm actually going to drop that down, and I'm going to make this one. These are a little too close. I want it to be. I'm going to expand it just a bit. So I really like project-based learning. So having a puzzle and trying to figure it out helps. It's a really important style. Make presenter bigger. There we have it. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Yes, I do often talk to myself this way also, so it's not just because I'm in front of a camera. Do you want this to be a little bit... So one thing I have to keep in mind is I'm gonna have feet right here, probably. Styling. Center the whole thing. Okay, so option number 1 is done. Let's go ahead and group all those together so they, actually before we do that, oops, let's grab these and duplicate that, and now I can center it. Alright, so moving on to option number 2. We can get rid of, actually we can get rid of, yeah, let's get rid of that completely. We don't need that anymore. Probably don't need these anymore. And pull that over. Okay, so on this one, I was trying to decide if we want to have these further down and for them to be more along the bottom. Then we'll keep that line, try to remember to keep that line there. Kind of zoom that in just a bit. And now let's see if this actually, well this, let me do a union because it's grouped. So we got to ungroup all of this first. And then this union. Gotta be a way to I just want these to marry each other here. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so I want to try to remember to keep this line down here. But in order to do that, so this is white and this is black. Oh, I think I know what I did wrong this last time. Okay. So we're going to drop a node. I'm going to break this apart, and if I had been thinking I would have duplicated where I was at last time, but that's okay. Practice is good. Stick those two back together. Just zoomed right over because it's going to the second thing that I clicked on. It's going to go to the position for that second piece. Okay, so we've got our two pieces. We've got this now. We can go path, break apart. And let's switch it back to normal mode. So here I lost my river, but this piece is still there. So I have to union it back together. Or get it combined back together. Ha! There we go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Where did our other one go? So if you double click, if you have a bunch of grouped objects together and you double click into it, it will bypass the grouping and then click on the one that you are trying to actually click. Whereas if you just did a single click, then you're perfectly fine. And I am starting to get really cold, so I'm going to put my blanket on here. Welcome to North Idaho. My nice windows here have a great view, but it's now almost 10 p.m. and past my bedtime. It's cold out. So what I'm going to do here is actually going to replace, I'm not going to, I'm going to make a copy again, duplicate, so I can show them the different options. Duplicate, take this up, expand it. Okay, this one now needs to get bigger and come down to the bottom. Oh, I'm going to turn my snapping back on. That would help things. Sometimes it can be a little annoying, but sometimes it can be helpful. So, are you going to turn on? Oh, because there's not a node there. At what point did we lose our ratio? Okay. Sorry, let's see, what can we talk about? I just kind of got in the zone of doing this. So now I'm just kind of playing with things here. And trying to decide which formats and stuff I like. I never in a million years thought I would be a graphic designer, but here I am. And I left my previous career in education interesting. Well, because these are from the same two, sometimes Inkscape likes to do grouping of duplicates together. It's kind of annoying, so you have to go back through and ungroup it, and then if I stick it back together, I can I'm sure there's some way to make sure that, what is going on there? There's a little something there, we don't need that. Don't want no random nodes messing up my artwork. All right, we now have 3 options. Turn my snapping back off to present to the client. And I'm going to have to figure out a solution for proof grade walnut. So this is now 5.5 wide. Why did you let... Did I not do you? Okay, let's center you. Ah. Not sure which one I like. But it's not up for me to decide. So this is about 5.5 inches wide and almost 7 inches tall. So let's take this actually down to our 5. And I'm going to unlock that. And what happens if I ungroup everything and take this up to 7. There we go. Get a little bit more space. Oh. I want the whole thing to go down to by 5. But then I need to unlock it, ungroup it, grab the outside, take it up to 7. Lock it, 5, unlock it, ungroup it, take it up to 7. Click it. There we go. If you hold Control down while you're dragging an object in Inkscape, then it will stay along the same x-axis. And so if I try to drag it off just a little bit, it was auto-correcting itself. If I go like way out, then it's not going to, but it keeps it along the same path, which is pretty cool. Oh, and I wasn't saving it at any point along the way. So hopefully I need to get better about that. And that is it. And my light's going off above saying, hey, it's bedtime. So thanks for tuning in and watching. If you have questions, then definitely let me know. I can try to help you out. I'm not an expert in Inkscape, but I'm trying and learning a whole bunch of new things along the way every day. And I hope that you are able to find this valuable. Thanks so much.